Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tips, tools, and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. Today I have guest Grey Coutts. Grey is an artist, creative director, and graphic design major who explores spirituality through his vibrant, abstract paintings. Initially, Grey started painting as a way to work through his own personal struggles, but along the way, he realized he could also paint to help others deal with their challenges too. Utilizing his spiritual and energetic intuition, Grey taps into a person's energy to create a unique piece of art that reflects their essence. Grey continues to pursue his passions, finding ways to connect and share his creativity with the world. Welcome, Grey. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we're going to dive into intuitive energy portraits, self-discovery through spiritual and energetic art. And so, Grey, you went on a journey of self-discovery and realized that painting was not only a means for you to heal, but it was also a very powerful intuitive ability as well. And so, share with us a little bit more about how you began painting, and have you always been good at art?
Yeah, so no, I have not been always good at art, and I think that has to do with like the whole like self-confidence factor that like all of us struggle with. So did I have artistic potential my entire life? Probably, but I didn't really like get that going until towards the end of high school, and more so in college, when I really developed all of those skills and was like, hey, I'm an artist. It was really just about kind of getting over all of the fear that I had within me, and like not making a mistake on what I was doing, and realizing that mistakes are how the great stuff happens.
Yeah. Didn't Van Gogh cut his ear off?
Yep.
I don't know if that was a mistake or not, but
I don't know either, but that's actually, need to find that out.
So great. You started to recognize that painting could help you heal. How was that working out for you?
Yeah, so I kind of went through this big spiritual awakening, and during that time I was really confused at like what was happening with me and like with my mind. And I would find that my mind would just be racing, whether I was dealing with like things in mental health with school, or if I was overwhelmed with like relationship stuff. And painting sort of became an outlet for me. And I noticed a pattern. I was like, okay, every time my mom was racing, I just find myself in my parents' backyard or wherever I was, just painting. And then I'd like kind of wake up from what I was doing, and I'd look down and be like, oh, this is pretty cool. I just made a painting, and I was so involved with the things and the thoughts that were in my mind that, yes, I was conscious of what I was doing on the canvas, but it was like the marks that I was making on the painting were direct correlations to what was going on in my mind. And that happened for quite some time. And I realized it was basically my form of self-therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. And through that journey of your own self-discovery, you began to recognize that you could help others heal too. So how did that come about?
Yeah, that only came about like 2 years ago. Again, like all of my art is sort of a reflection of my internal emotions and things that are going on around me, energy, seen and unseen, my relationships with other people. And one day I wanted to make a gift for my friend. He was going through a rough time, and I was like, I'm gonna make a painting for you. He lives in DC, and I was facing him. I was like, I showed him the colors that I picked out, and then I hung up. And then 10 minutes later, I called him back. I was like, hey man, I just finished your painting. He's like, what? How is that even? I was like, take a look at this. So I showed him. He's like, how the hell did you just do that? I was like, I just like channeled your energy, really. And I was explaining to him, I was like, this is how like the soft outer side, but then we have this more like complex inner minds working of like neglect and confusion. And he's just like looking at me and like, hey, it's you on the canvas. That was like the first time that I did an energy portrait for somebody else. So after that, it slowly started to develop more. And yeah, I can do them with people present or if they're somewhere else in the world.
That is so cool. And so, you have a background in spiritual studies and healing. And so you kind of developed what you call an energy portrait. Can you tell us more about what that is? I know you just said that you did this for your friend, but how has this developed?
Yeah, so an energy portrait is a visual representation of the client on a canvas. So we could use this one behind me, for example. This isn't an energy portrait of anybody, but what you see here would be a final product of an energy portrait. So I am able to tap into the person after speaking with them for a little bit, and we kind of like see where they're at, what's holding them back, what are they struggling with, where do they want to go. And throughout that conversation and me picking up their energy, I'm able to dump all of that onto a canvas and then create. So it's really like a non-stop type of experience. My mind is just like, my mind is rushing. It's flowing with all the information that's coming in. And it usually takes between 20 to 45 minutes. And I'd love for people to be there watching me as
Yeah.
the experience is happening, because it just adds that whole other level of wow factor to it.
Yeah. And, I'm feeling through those paintings that there are frequencies coming through those. So I speak light language and oftentimes I'll draw symbols. And I'm wondering if when you're painting, that information is coming through to you. So how do you receive that information? Do you receive it? So, for example, when I have a client and it might be a day or two out, I take a shower or I'm in the shower or I'm walking and I start receiving downloaded information, oftentimes for someone I could be working with a day or two later. How does that work for you? Do you recognize that coming in before you even meet the person? Is it only during the time that you're with them? How does that work for you?
Kind of like yourself, I do get information about people or things. I try my best to like, it's overwhelming, like, so I try to just like not most of the time, but specifically if somebody's coming to me for an energy portrait, we have an initial conversation and sometimes colors immediately come into my mind. And it's fun when we hang up and I'd be like, yeah, I got the colors in my mind that came through. And then I'm like, what is your favorite colors? They're like, oh, I love blues and light greens. I was like, great, that's exactly what the base of my color palette is going to be for you. So like information comes through that way too, but it's also this practice of surrendering, which is a huge theme in my life right now. And I'm finding in a lot of other people's lives that are surrounding me, is really surrendering to the flow of the energy, to life, and to this information that is downloaded. So it's like the entire process while I'm painting the energy portrait, it's partly like I have to battle my own ego while I'm doing it. It's like to push away my self-doubt and then just really let everything flow. So yes, surrendering and downloads before the clients come, and then also like getting their energy from them standing next to me.
Yeah, that's really neat. And, I've been working on that too, Gray, that surrendering and that flow state. And I'm a writer. I realize like you later and I'm like, oh, I guess I can write and it comes through. And so, when do you find that you're most creatively inspired? Sometimes my writing comes through. I get woken up at 2 or 3 in the morning and then I'm just like Edward Scissorhands, like,
Yeah.
like crazy. So when do you find that you have that inspiration?
So specifically with painting, I find that whenever I'm going through like a rough time is when I'm most active. And I wish it was flipped a little bit because yeah, I don't always want to be going through a hard time, but I also always want to be painting. But I find that when I really like in my mind dealing with an issue or a problem, that's when the most beautiful work is produced for me. Um, and yes, I do. And I need to get into more of a habit of like, oh, today I'm in a good mood, so I'm going to paint a happy painting, you know?
Mhm.
So it's really just about those emotions. So when there's a heightened state of emotion in me And like I was saying before, it's like a therapy for me to like deal with it. And I speak through color because sometimes speaking with words is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. And so do you have the ability, or have you picked up on this, that when you paint, you can taste the color, hear the color, feel the color? Do you recognize that?
Well, not yet. I don't think to an extent that I could like actualize the words of it,
Mhm.
but I found that when I'm painting, that the colors of the chakras is sort of what comes through to me is like, oh, if all of a sudden using orange, then I'm gonna relate that to the client's
Happen.
issues or growth with that the hara chakra or in the body. So that's as much as I would love to taste the colors, you know.
Yeah, and I taste emotion. I guess that's why I say that. I'll be working with someone and I taste lemon or bitterness, and I know that their emotion is they're holding on to bitterness. Or I'll taste something sweet and it's like, oh, they may have diabetes, or so I will get this sense, and it doesn't come through all the time. But I was just curious because I know there's people out there that they taste colors and they hear colors, and there might be a time when you start doing that. I think as we advance and we begin to tune into our different
Mhm.
abilities, you're like, whoa, I'm starting to have it come through very differently now. Like you may visualize a lemon and realize, okay, yellow, or associate it with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope that happens to me. Right now, it's really just like the color is connected to an emotion, so it's like a feeling inside of me.
Yeah,
Rather
so you're picking up on that clairsentience. Yeah,
yes,
very cool. So when you say you're painting someone's soul essence, do you feel as if it's their aura, their meridians, their chakras? Is that really what's coming through?
yeah. So I guess the whole purpose of the energy portrait is to have it be like this energetic vision board of the human. Um, And the goal for it is to aid as a manifestation tool and also a daily reminder that no matter what problems you're going through, whether you dropped your coffee on the way to work or you stubbed your toe, like you are this crazy, beautiful, like energetic being, and you shouldn't get weighed down by the little tiny things that just ruin people's day, you know? And them seeing this piece of art on their wall is a daily reminder for that. And it's like, yes, you can do, be, and achieve anything you desire. And this is a piece to remind you of your true power here on earth.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And so, Gray, do you have any advice for people who might be struggling to get into that creative flow state?
Yeah, I mean, creating is really just about creating, essentially. And when I first started painting, I would just sit there and look at the canvas. Yeah, I'd make some marks on it, but then I'd be like, oh, I don't want to ruin what I already did because I like it. And the major breakthrough for me was to not worry about what's already on the canvas, not worry about what you've already written, not worry about if your recipe tastes bad. You know, it's just about doing it. And once you're doing it, you're going to discover more. And then you're going to start to flow and develop into your style or your creative outcome of that situation. Specifically with painting, if you just don't know what to paint, I just say take a paintbrush or some paint and just throw it at the canvas. You're going to make a mark, and then you're going to have to react to that, and just keep going through that back and forth process.
Yeah, it's like, and not being afraid to let the emotions come through. I think many of us with writing too, I get like that. It's like, I started writing my book. I haven't published it yet, but I can really feel my feelings throughout the portions of the book. And there was times when I started it and then I'd let it sit for a month or two, and then I came back and I was in a totally different consciousness, than I was before. So it's like almost reading the book, you can feel the shift and the change. And I'm sure through your paintings, you do that too. Is there times when you start painting and then you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna let this sit and step away from it," and then you come back?
Yeah, that's like the key difference between like an energy portrait and a non-energy portrait. Is the energy portraits are done in one sitting. Yes, I have to touch up a few things after the process is done, but like something like this was like a week's process. And it's really just again about the progression of what the emotion is sometimes too. Like if I start a piece like this, I don't know really, I know how I'm feeling, but I haven't gone through that whole roller coaster of the process with it. So the paintings like come with me through that healing process.
Yeah, that's really neat. And so it's like you can look at that painting and really feel like that's where I was in that now moment. That's where I was.
Yeah, and I'm sure when you like write stuff too, it's like whatever you're writing kind of can teleport you back to that state.
Yes.
And that's like me too when I'm looking at paintings. I'm like, oh, I was a little doing a little rough that day, but at least I got it out onto the canvas. It's like a
Yeah.
song, when you listen to a song and it brings you back to like 3 years ago when you were in a certain spot. You're
Mhm.
like, I can't listen to this song anymore because
Yeah, because I was in a hard place right there. It'd be neat if you could make a, you have all different canvases. Say you have 9 different canvases and every month you drew a different one and then combine them all together and you're like, or maybe 12, and you're like, this was my year, and each
yeah,
canvas was a different.
that's actually cool, like an abstract
Yeah.
calendar.
That'd be like one, this was 2023 or, whatever. And that would be really fun to do that. And then you could kind of see how you've healed through that process,
Yeah, that's awesome. We might have to do that.
Yeah. And so, Gray, how do you want to help people heal through painting?
Yeah, I guess the biggest message that I just want to get out to people is basically the message of the energy portrait, which I was kind of explaining. It's like we are all here for a purpose, whether we're aware of it or not. And part of our journey on Earth is to really find out that purpose. And if I can help somebody do that, then I'm happy. And if it's also just, I want to remind people that they may not know what their passions are, they may not know what their hobbies or their skill sets are, but we can't just get caught up in those little bumps on the road.
Mhm.
And if I can help somebody with an energy portrait, talk to them, like kind of do that whole energy exchange and remind them that they are this creative being, then I'm happy.
That's awesome. And so we are going to share some photos of Gray's energy portraits at the end of the show for those of you who are interested in what they may look like. But Gray, can you share with us how people can connect with you? How can they learn more about you and maybe purchase one of these energy portraits?
Yeah, so I have a website, greycouttsart.com. Also, you can find me on Instagram. I'm most active there at Grey Coutts. And those are the main 2 places. Yeah, I'm always open for, my email is always open, but you can reach me at any of those places.
And so you're located in Los Angeles, correct?
Yes.
So when you do these portraits, can you do them for anyone around the world or are they just for local people?
I can do them for anybody, though I could do it remotely and channel the energy like I was talking about with my friend who was in DC. But also part of the process of the energy portrait that I love to have is if the person is with me while I'm doing it, because I get to take them to the art store, we get to grab a coffee, we get
Oh,
to bring them
cool.
back to the studio, and they get to really like watch it happen. It's special in both ways, but I found that more information comes through when they're standing next to me, and just the experience of watching me paint somebody's energy. People have told me it's beautiful.
That is amazing. And so now you're a graphic designer too. Have you ever thought about doing the energy portraits from a graphic design standpoint versus painting?
Interesting. Not really.
I just thought of that.
Yeah. I guess it would have to be kind of like, well, I guess I would just be using the computer to do it.
Mhm. I don't know.
Um,
I just thought maybe that would be another avenue too for people who aren't local.
yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess I could hook up an iPad and then
Like use your pen.
yeah, yeah. I
That'd
can
be kind of
also,
fun.
I've done this one time is I have set up a video camera so they can watch me do it too. So there's always that opportunity of doing a Zoom call during the process.
That's really neat. And so, Gray, this has been a really fun conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that maybe we didn't touch on during the show?
I think we covered a lot. Yeah, it's just don't forget that you're just here on Earth to thrive, and don't get caught up in the small things along the way.
Yeah, and be open to trying new things. If painting has never been your jam, give it a shot, So you never know, because like you said, you didn't really realize you were a painter until one day you picked up that brush and realized, wow, I'm actually pretty good at this, and it seems to help me heal. And there's so many ways that we can heal, whether it's with a pen or a paintbrush or whatever it may be, right?
Mhm.
And so, Gray, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you so much for helping people and sharing your story and being vulnerable, because it's really not easy to do that. And so I love the vibrant colors behind you, and thank you so much. And for those of you who are listening to the podcast, you may want to jump on over to the YouTube channel so you can actually visually see some of Gray's energy portraits.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a great talk.
You deserve to navigate your life in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.theexistentialempath.com.